Meanwhile, car dealerships set to close from coast to coast. That has some people up in arms over what is being called by some a partisan hit list. The claims that the Obama administration is purposely closing down dealerships that are owned by people who support the Republican Party. Is that possible? Fox News contributor and blogger Michelle Malkin joins us live right now from Denver. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
I saw the headline on your site a couple of days ago that apparently dealerships shut down in bankruptcy, mostly GOP. Could that possibly be that maybe more dealerships are simply owned by GOP?
Yeah, that's certainly true, and I raised that possibility myself about the causality and how this relationship is working. But the fact is, Steve, that there are bloggers out there, mostly on the right side of the internet, who are doing an amazing job of raising the question and sifting through the evidence. Now, of course, the entire list of nearly 800 Chrysler dealers that are targeted for closure is on the internet, and what they're doing is taking a look at public records and comparing the campaign finance histories of some of these dealers.
Honey white, everybody told her it was sweet and good, yeah.
And like I said, it's entirely possible that Republican-leaning businessmen gravitate towards this industry. But I think you have to take a look at the flip side, too, which is taking a look at the dealers who were protected,
right,
and whether or not there's cronyism and corruption involved. And believe me, Steve, over the last several years, we've all documented the Obama Chicago gangland tactics that certainly make this a possibility. And believe me, Steve, over the last several years, we've all documented the Obama Chicago gangland tactics that certainly make this a possibility. And there are senators out there now who are pressing the White House to be more transparent about the reasons for the decisions to close some dealers,
sure,
and some not. Especially when many of these dealers were perfectly profitable on their own.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. Some of the protected dealerships, or apparently protected, who get to keep their dealerships and franchises include former Clinton chief of staff, Mac McClarty, who owns a bunch of dealerships. They're not closing any of his down.
Yes, and let me just give a shout out to several bloggers by name who are doing work on this. Of course, Hot Air, which is my group blog, called attention to the work of people like Doug Ross and Joey Smith, who are looking into this, and they singled out several dealerships co-owned by Mac McClarty, the Clinton official who also campaigned for Obama, and Robert Johnson, who was a big Obama guy, right, and head of the Black Entertainment Television Network. And the odds that their dealerships would be protected and all the other ones in the immediate surrounded area would not, apparently, according to Doug Ross, are very, very slim. Now, where is the rest of the mainstream media? That is the question. This is exactly the kind of thing they ought to be investigating because it has to do with our money and the government's power.
Are you
I know. It's silly to
Do you
even
think the New York Times is going to touch this with a 10-foot pole? Besides, I'm sure the White House is going to deny this anyway. Besides, and it wasn't the White House that came up with the list, wasn't it, Chrysler?
Yes, that's what they'll say. I just have to read here a statement from Stephen Pearlstein, who's a business columnist at the Washington Post, and he was specifically asked about this. There was a commenter on the site who referenced Hot Air, and this was Stephen Pearlstein's response. "Oh, please, what % of all auto dealers are Republican? I bet it's pretty high." Well, why don't you try and find out? Where's the level of intellectual curiosity and commitment to the pursuit of truth? Yeah, that's certainly true, and I raised that possibility myself about the causality and how this relationship is working. But the fact is, Steve, that there are bloggers out there, mostly on the right side of the internet, who are doing an amazing job of raising the question and sifting through the evidence.
He knows Honey's coming back. Honey's gonna want some more.
But no, instead it's just scoffing. And I think there's this attitude about the blogosphere that, oh, they don't know what they're talking about.
Angel's food, devil made of honey.
There's denigration. Hot air was smeared, unfortunately, by the O'Reilly factor last night, when a lot of people get good information that they cannot get anywhere else.
Devil made of honey.
And I think that this story deserves a lot more scrutiny and attention than it's getting.
Well, I haven't heard about the O'Reilly thing, but I do look at hot air. So.
Devil made of honey.
In the Policing the Net segment tonight, we asked our internet cop, Amanda Carpenter, to check out the political websites regarding Judge. This comes from hotair.com. Unqualified, militant, and socialist. Next, please. The GOP has to block any of Hussein's, that's the president, extremist picks. You know, when you read something like that, nobody's going to block the pick. You know, do you ever think about who's writing this? Does that person live in the United States? It's just not going to happen. The numbers are overwhelmingly Democrat, and they're going to vote for her.
Right, yeah. She's expected to get through without any problems, barring, you know, any big snafu
So the guy
or
who
gap
writes
that she
this,
might
or
make
the
in the
woman who
confirmation
writes
hearings.
this, I guess they're just not living here.
Devil made of honey. She said you get me when I'm moving with you. Not a day before that. The devil says, honey, what the fuck? I said I like to see a little more fat.